Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Royce here. And I've got to say, I was sleeping soundly this morning. It's a Saturday morning. I stayed up late watching anime until like 3 or 4 a.m. And I was snoozing and I kept hitting snooze on my alarm clock. And I said, who cares? It's a Saturday. Who cares? It's a Saturday. But then I realized, wait a second. Card reveals. I still didn't know if cards were going to be revealed today, and it turns out they were. So I'm filming this video a little bit later than I have been, a little bit later, closer to noon, but I'm still going to try to get it out as quickly as possible so that you can experience these new card reveals with me. Let's get right into them. Today we have the reveal of Udyr. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I did actually Google it beforehand. Sometimes I do preparation. This is the card reveal of Udyr and his supporting cards. So let's go ahead and watch it. It should be a video like the other two, I'm assuming. Here we go.
Gather, spirits, gather.
Alright, so Udyr is a 5-mana 4/4 Freljord card. When I'm summoned or strike, create a stance swap in hand. Or, if you have one, reduce its cost to 0. So this kind of sounds like Irelia's champion spell. Not her champion spell, but the spell that she generates when she swings. Let's see what that is. Can't remember it right now. I'm terrible with card names, by the way. I can picture them. I know their mana cost. I know what they do. Okay, here we go. The Blade Surge. So far, this is reminiscent of Blade Surge to me. But let's keep watching. And he levels up once you've damaged the enemy nexus 7+ times this game. So notice that this is different than the Sejuani condition. This is if you damage the enemy nexus multiple times in the same round, both of those still count, whereas with Sejuani it has to be on separate rounds. This might look immediately more difficult than Sejuani, but it's not necessarily, especially if you're like, you know, if you're swinging with a wide board and you deal like a little bit of damage with 3 or 4 different units, that counts for 3 or 4 different triggers. But whatever this stance swap is, you get it when he is summoned or strikes. If you already have one, you reduce it to 0.
Spirits of the land, hear my call.
We will show them where.
2-mana 2/2 Vulpine Wanderer. When I'm summoned, create a stance swap in hand. Alright, so it's not just Udyr that's generating these cards.
For me, the spirits dance.
Seen that before.
Follow the old
There's the
ways.
Udyr. Okay. Stance swap. Slow spell. It looks like it's a 3-mana slow spell to start with. Grant a stance to an ally. Okay, so perhaps this will be something like a lucky find? Bear stance. Okay, so this is like a souped up lucky find. Got it. So bear stance, grant an ally +2/+2, grant an ally +2/+0, and overwhelm. Oh, look at this. Anybody see this? The templating error. +2/+0, no line. +0/+2 with a line. I don't like it. I don't like it. They gotta fix that. They gotta fix that. All right. But in any case, we've got some raw stats, we've got some power and overwhelm, we've got some, come on Java update, I know about you. We've got some health and regeneration, and we've got AoE, deal 1 to everything else. So this one is unusual, but this will, I guess, help you to level up your Udyr. This will, help you in a Scargrounds deck. Hey, more Scargrounds support? More Scargrounds support, that's very welcome. So these are, very strong cards. These are reminiscent of the power level, I would say, of Aphelios's moon weapons, and that you can pretty easily reduce their cost to 0 feels pretty strong to me, and also their grant abilities, not give abilities. So that means that they will persist past the current round.
Fire ram!
You could have fought by my side.
Oathbreaker, you should have fought beside Sejuani's.
Oh, okay. Is he in the lore like an ally of Sejuani? I don't know. Now we're going to 4 stance. Okay.
Old god.
5 mana slow. Udyr's Spirits Unleashed. So this is his champion spell. Grant your allies +1/+1. Then deal 1 to everything. Oh, okay. Okay, so compare this to Ice Shard, right? Ice Shard is 2 mana less and it's fast speed. But aside from that, this also buffs your whole board first, so this ensures that it won't kill anything of yours. Okay. Okay. Or compare this to Avalanche. This is 1 more mana, it deals 1 less damage, but again, it won't kill your own things. This feels like a really strong champion spell. Granting your allies +1/+1 is nice. Effectively, unless they're tough or you have Scar Grounds or something like that, this is normally kind of like grant your allies +1/+0, then deal 1 to enemy units plus nexuses, you know? I don't know if this is going to get run on its own. I think that Freljord has a lot of competition already. You can run it in like Scargrounds decks, but I don't know if this gets run over something like Avalanche or Ice Shard. Probably not. But this synergizes really well with the deck that it's supporting, and I think it's an excellent champion spell.
But hear me!
Oh, look at that artwork.
The spirits gather!
Man. Freaking out. Alright, 5 mana 5/5, yeah. When I'm summoned or strike, create a stance swap in hand, or if you have one, reduce its cost to 0. All the same so far. I have +1/+1 for each stance that you've cast this game. Okay. So how much stance support is there going to be? Get one whenever he is summoned or strikes, but it's only every other time that you would get one that it's reduced to 0. So pretty much for every 2 stance swaps you get, you can easily cast one. So if he could... Is that a play effect? Ooh, that's not a play effect, so he will continue to grow. Okay, that helps. So he could pretty easily become like have like 8 power or so, and then if you assigned the +2 power plus overwhelm stance to him, he would go up to like an 11 power unit because it's a stance and overwhelm. All right. Every stance swap empowers you get.
I see the beast inside, Shaman. Unleash it!
For Sejuani, for the Winter's Claw!
So, by the way, there is some minor synergy between Sejuani and this deck. Both decks are trying to damage the enemy nexus. I wouldn't say the synergy is really strong. Frostbiting the enemy units is like a nice payoff, but it's not particularly good in this deck as far as I can see so far. But if you are running both of these cards with like Noxus, then you can play with the Reputation package, which I have already said would be a pretty good option. You know, Whispered Words, 2 mana, draw 2. What else? Reckoning, not really a Reputation card. I don't know. I mean, the Reputation package right now has always been running Ash and LeBlanc, right? So this would be quite a different shell running Udyr and Sejuani. It'll have to remain to be seen.
Stand and fight!
This is our path. Mistclaw!
Yep. Look at all that overwhelm damage.
The gods have spoken.
Alright, here we go. All of the cards together in one screenshot. Okay, so we've already talked about Udyr and leveled up Udyr. We've already talked about Spirits Unleashed. And we've talked about... we can reconsider this card at the end once we can see all the stance swap cards we have. We've already considered these, but we can reconsider them as well. So there are 3 new cards we haven't talked about at all. 6 mana burst speed. Freljord card, Shaman's Call. Create 2 fleeting, 0 cost stance swaps in hand. Okay, so this is like This is kind of like 6 mana slow, grant +4 to a unit, grant +4 power, or +2 power and overwhelm to 2 different units. This card is very flexible. That their 0 cost helps a lot. It doesn't really matter that they're fleeting. Notably, I think if your board gets cleared, then you won't have any targets for your stance swaps. Also, does anyone else feel like stance swap is a really kind of strange name for this, for these cards? Like, yes, I know you can kind of swap between them, and each different power up is considered a different stance, but then you can have like multiple simultaneous different stances. It feels kind of weird. It feels like this is more of like an Aurelia style spell, or an Aurelia style name for a spell. But in any case, create 2 fleeting 0 cost stance swaps in hand. Yeah, that seems very flexible. I like that. It's expensive, but the cards it generates are free. It seems good. I like Shaman's Call. Okay, we've talked about these other ones. Let's look at Wrath of the Freljord and at Hyara Allseer. Wrath of the Freljord, 8 mana, 8/8 with Overwhelm. Enemies with 3 or less power can't block. Okay, so this kind of gives... This is better than Fearsome, because with Fearsome, 3 power units can block. But let's just say this gives your whole board an upgraded version of Fearsome. I don't really see Wrath of the Freljord in this particular deck. You know what this would be really good against would be Bandletree, because Bandletree just runs like a lot of chump blockers and hopes that that'll be enough to keep the game going long enough for them to finish their win condition. And you know, an 8 mana card is a little late, but not too late. I think that's usually before Bandletree closes it out. Wrath of the Freljord. Overwhelm is kind of an awkward combination, though, with like an unblockable unit, right? Because those things have some redundancy. Like, Overwhelm only gets value if you are blocked. So this is just gonna... And then if they have something that's over 3 power, they probably don't use it to block the Overwhelm thing. They probably use it to block the non-Overwhelm thing so they can prevent more damage. So this is just sort of like an 8/8. The Overwhelm doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess that's like... This is like the minimum strength is an 8 mana 8/8 Overwhelm. And even if all of their stuff is strong, it's still that. I can see this as a finisher card in some other sort of deck, but I don't really see the combination with Udyr. Yes, you could also give this regeneration, but I don't think you're wanting to play this and have it stick around and play like a value-oriented sort of game. Okay, let's move on. 6 mana 5/5, Hyara Allseer. When I'm summoned, create a stance swap in hand. It costs 0 this round. Let's take stock of all the cards, at least so far, that can create stance swaps. So we've got Udyr himself, who generates them on summon and on strike. By the way, that could mean that we could try to combine Freljord with Demacia to get extra strikes for extra stance swaps. But that seems like a pretty committal region combination choice just for like one particular reason. We've got Shaman's Call, Vulpine Wanderer, Vulpine, and Hyara Allseer. Okay. So we just have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards so far that generate stance swaps. So this, well, okay. So this isn't really a 6 mana 5/5. This is like a 6 mana 7/7, or excuse me, yeah, a 6 mana 7/7, a 6 mana 7/5 with Overwhelm, a 6 mana 5/7 with Regeneration, or a 6 mana 1 damage AoE. But better, because you can put the stance swap on one of your other cards. Creating a 0 mana stance swap is really good. Also, this comes out right after Udyr. you might want to do something with that 6 mana slot. I mean, if you're also playing Sejuani, then Hyara Allseer might be a little clunky. I don't know if you want to be playing like 6 drops. So maybe this is just like a one of in that deck, or maybe you play this if you're not pairing this with Sejuani. And again, the Sejuani pairing is very tenuous. You know what I mean? They don't have super strong synergy with each other. Just their level up conditions have synergy, but that's it. Otherwise, they're just like both good champions in the same region that will allow you to splash any other region that you want. So for Vulpine Wanderer, the benefit of generating an early stance swap is that as soon as you play your Udyr, that stance swap goes to 0 and you can cast the stance swap. So you can immediately give Udyr like regeneration or something. And that'll probably be a pretty common thing to see, right? Giving Udyr regeneration. Because until you actually level him up, he's going to be kind of fragile. Just a 4/4. His stats aren't naturally scaling. So Vulpine Wanderer on 2, create a stance swap, create the regeneration one, set it to 0 with Udyr. Make Udyr a 4/6 regen. I think pairing this with Ashe actually does still have some that's still defensible, because then Udyr can't get blocked as easily by something really strong to just take him out. Let's see, you damage the enemy nexus 7+ times this. Alright, let's reconsider Bone Scryer and Tusk Speaker. Bone Scryer says, when I survive damage, deal 1 to the enemy nexus. Okay, so I see the synergy with Udyr now. This is to turbo him out. You can go like Bone Scryer plus another unit on board plus your 1 mana or your 1 damage AoE. Stance swap, or you could do like Bone Scryer plus Spirits Unleashed if you really want to turbo out that Udyr level up condition. I don't know if that's really the way to go, though. Because early damage on the opponent's Nexus isn't really doing a lot for, like, your overall game plan, except leveling up Udyr. I think you'd rather level up Udyr while maintaining more tempo. So if you have to choose between 2 drops, and it looks like we do, we've got a lot of 2-drop competition. Not that you can only play 1 2-drop, of course. But I think I would probably favor Vulpine Wanderer and probably even Tusk Speaker just for its stat line over Bone Scryer right now. I would play this first and then this and then this if we're looking at this package right here. And if we can look at the old reveals as well. Let's see. Alright. So we've seen Tusk Speaker, we've seen Bone Scryer. If you've damaged the enemy Nexus this round, transform me into Merkwolf Rager, which is just 4 mana, 5/5, draw a unit, plus it has regeneration. Or a 6 mana, 6/6, grant me +2/+2. I don't think these cards really support the Udyr archetype, with the exception of Tusk Speaker and Bone Scryer. Also, this is a fast spell. What's going on? Not a skill. Hello? Wait, isn't it? Or is this a card? No, it doesn't have a rarity gem. This should be a skill. Yeah, I wouldn't really play these cards in an Udyr deck. I mean, maybe Merkwolf Rager, just because I think this card is pretty good on its own. It is a 4-drop, which has... It does not have crossover with Udyr. Udyr is 5 mana. In an Udyr deck, this is pretty easy to make it go off. But I think Mammoth Rager is just overkill. I think Udyr himself is probably enough. This is just going to get targeted by hard removal anyway. It comes down a little late to be too impactful. I think. I don't know. On the other hand, maybe I'm just like, it's hard to visualize how easy this is to remove, because if they don't specifically have hard removal, it's really hard, right? And it gets harder as things go on. You cannot chip Mammoth Rager down. This puts you on a clock that's just a few turns. On like a few turn clock, where you need to keep freezing it or you need to bounce it or something like that. So if they don't specifically have like Will of Ionia, Vengeance, Mini-Morph or something like that, this might do a lot of damage. It just doesn't really contribute to the greater Udyr archetype. Plus we're already running a few 6-mana cards, right? We're already running potentially Sejuani and Hyara Allseer. Yeah, I think Hyara Allseer is better than it looks. So let's go through each of these cards. And I think the theme here with these card reveals is that stance swaps are actually very good. Stance swaps are actually very good as long as you have something to put them on, I should say. So don't underestimate these. These aren't like lucky finds. These are doing a lot. So Shaman's Call. For any particular doubled up stance swap, Shaman's Call is it feels a little underwhelming, right? It's like 6 mana, grant +4/+4. Okay, that's a little below average. Grant 4 power across 2 units and double overwhelm. Okay, grant 4 health, double regen, maybe even a little worse. Deal 2 damage to everything. You know, that's a little worse than Avalanche, but I think the flexibility of this is important. I think the ability to support Udyr is important, and that you can't rely just on Udyr to generate these stance swaps. I think that Shaman's Call is pretty good. I would probably rate Hyara Allseer, though, higher, and perhaps Vulpine Wanderer higher, just because this comes down early and pairs well with Udyr himself. But I think this is pretty likely to be like a 1 or 2 of, maybe 3 if you really want those stance swaps, but this is still pretty decent despite its high cost. Udyr himself, obviously, you would run 3 copies in his own deck. I don't even need to talk about that. I'm not really thinking that you're going to build a deck around like specifically trying to make him strike to generate more stance swaps. It feels pretty committal to do that, especially if you have to use things like concerted strike and not single combat because you want to keep him alive. So I don't really... I was considering the Demacia pairing, and yes, you can do kind of funny things with like Judgment and strike 1,000,000 times. Or strike 6 times, realistically. And create 3 0-cost stance swaps. Wait, it wouldn't even do that. Create a stance swap in hand, or if you have one, reduce its cost to 0. Okay, so it doesn't like... At that point, you then have to spend that stance swap, right? Before he'll generate another. Because he'll just keep targeting the 0 mana stance swap and making it 0 over and over again uselessly. So... okay, you don't even have a funny play with Judgment there. Spirits Unleashed. Amazing in Scargrounds. Probably doesn't do what this deck is trying to be doing if you're not running Scargrounds. It's overcosted to just deal like 1 damage to the opponent's stuff, basically, and give your stuff 1 more power. And it only gets you 1 Udyr tick. Vulpine Wanderer. I know it looks a little bit underwhelming, but I still like its pairing with Udyr. So I think you probably run this unless you have 2 drops that you would much, much more prefer. And on that note, Tusk Speaker might be a little bit better, but I don't think Bone Scryer is. I think people are overrating this card. They're overrating it because of its potential. I guess also a benefit of this is it makes the opponent think twice about swinging in with like a wide, low power board. But at that point, they'll just say, okay, I'll take 1 damage. I'll buff up the Bone Scryer a little bit if you've got Scargrounds. I'll just deal with it. Yeah, I think that this is this card is a little bit of a bait. You can build a deck around it, but I don't think it slots well into other decks. Except maybe Scargrounds. In my mind right now, I'm considering like a Scargrounds version of Udyr and a non-Scargrounds version. That's where I'm coming from. Deal 1 to all Nexuses. This is okay. This is okay, and it's like a 2 mana 3/2 Overwhelm. Like that's a good stat line. Perhaps premium. I don't know. The Overwhelm. I guess the Overwhelm matters because you can deal 1 damage with the play effect and 1 damage with the Overwhelm. So I was earlier considering like like Sejuani, right? Or I was considering Plunder, and I was talking about how it's kind of useless that this deals damage twice in the same round. But now I'm seeing it because Udyr doesn't care about that. So the fact that this is often going to be 2 ticks for Udyr is actually pretty important and makes me rate Tusk Speaker higher. So I would say that Tusk Speaker and Vulpine Wanderer are on a similar power level, or this might be even a little stronger, although you might need Vulpine Wanderer just to consistently generate more stance swaps. Wrath of the Freljord is a good card in a different deck. Again, it basically gives your whole board super fearsome, right? Really funny against Galio, but other than that, it comes down pretty late. It comes down at a point where certain decks won't really be having to chump block anymore with things that have 3 or less power. They're going to be harder decks, so not really good against like Pantheon style decks. Not really good against like the Mirror, but pretty good against things like Ari Kennen. Good against things like Bandletree. What else is in the meta? Pretty decent against things like Fizz Lulu, although they could just cast a defensive Yordles in Arms. I don't know, maybe I'm underrating this card, but it just doesn't really say synergy to me, so I don't know where it belongs. And 6 mana, 5/5 Hyara Allseer. This card is, I imagine that this card will be underrated. People will be like, oh, gross, a 6 mana 5/5. But no, it's not a 6 mana 5/5. It's at minimum a 6 mana, again, 7/7, or a 6 mana 5/7 regen, or a 6 mana 7/5 overwhelm, or a 6 mana 1 damage AoE. That's very flexible, and that actually assumes that you put the stance swap specifically on Hyara Allseer, which you don't need to do. I think this card is really good, which is maybe the first and last time I'll say that about a 6 mana 5/5. So there's my assessment right there. I hope y'all enjoyed that card reaction and review. Let me know in the comments what you think about these cards. Do you think that I am overrating the power of these stance swaps? Is there a deck that I'm not considering Udyr to fit in? I'm sure there is. Also, I think that some of y'all might have stronger opinions or higher opinions of Bone Scryer and Wrath of the Freljord than I do. So let me know if you feel like I am off base on those. I'd really appreciate that. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the video. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, and a subscription on the channel would also be huge. I'm going to be doing all of the card reveals. Plus, for the first at least week of the expansion, I'm going to be putting out a video every day about some decks that I'm really excited to play with the new cards, including, spoiler alert, Galio Soraka. That's my #1 deck to play so far, although expect a video as well about my top 5 or top 7 decks that I'm excited to play in the expansion. Anyway, I hope you liked it. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RoyceGaming, and I will see you tomorrow.